Hello, and welcome to We Live for Saturday, your favorite college football podcast. I'm your co-host, Mike, and unfortunately, due to some scheduling difficulties on both ends, actually, John is not able to be in this podcast, but for the preview episode, we've got a great pinch hitter on here. We have returning to the show, Doug from the QB11 Show. Doug, how you doing?
I'm good, man. Thanks for letting me pinch hit again. That's big shoes to fill. I'll try to represent the best I can. Obviously, representing my Ducks this weekend, of course, and every weekend.
Yes.
But yeah, thanks for having me. I love your intro music. I always get pumped every time I hear it coming in.
That's why we picked it. I went through on a sample site where I had to pay like $3 or whatever to have access to all these things. And we went through so many different, iterations of it before we were like, no, this is it. We love this.
It's great. I have no idea what it is. I've never heard it anywhere else.
It's created music that was made to be like sold in bits and whatever. So it's not like even like a real song, I don't think.
I don't know. It should be. It's great.
Yeah. Thank you. Appreciate it so much.
Put it on the We Live for Saturday soundtrack, right?
Exactly. That's a good call. We should put out a mixtape.
Mixtape.
Old school.
Hating yourself, yeah.
Yeah, no, exactly.
My day.
I mean, I remember the days. I vaguely remember the and one era and being fascinated with the ball handling and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah. How are you doing, sir, today? How's everything going in your world?
I'm doing good. Game's tomorrow, so I'm getting ready to got all my tailgate supplies picked out today. Got everything ready to go.
So you'll be at the game.
Oh yeah. I have season tickets. So yeah, I haven't missed a home game since 2016.
You got me beat. I haven't missed. The last Gopher game I missed was 2017 when I had a cousin get married.
Now, obviously, not counting 2020 when we were forbidden.
Well, right. That's different.
I don't count that. That wasn't my choice.
No, exactly.
So yeah, I'll be down there for sure.
That's awesome. I love that you have season tickets and you get to all the games. I get to all the games. You see something different when you get to watch the games in person. I really like watching the secondary and the wide receivers a lot because I was a DB once myself, and because you can't see that, it's not all 22 when you're watching at home.
There was 2 seasons where I switched my tickets and I had them in the end zone, and it's not great especially when the ball's at the other end of the field, right? You're just watching on the big screen. But when it's coming at you, or even if it's at midfield going away, being able to see that view of the game from the end zone view, it's such a different experience than what you're used to on TV. You can really see the plays develop in a different way. You see the spacing so much better. It's pretty fun. I mean, like I said, I'm back in the midfield zone now, but I enjoyed it for that aspect of it.
Oh, for sure. And the thing that drives me crazy, here's my biggest pet peeve, Doug. When we're talking about people at games, they'll always complain. And I'm not saying that this year in particular, there's not some validity at times to it, but I'm talking about in general, every game, every year, people who don't go to the games will be like, none of the receivers can get open. Nobody's getting open. I'm like, how would you know? You're sitting at home. You can't see them off the line. You can't see whether they're getting separation or not, like down 5-10 yards downfield. You can't see that when you're watching on TV, really.
Yep. And sometimes it's true, but most often it's not true. Usually,
sometimes it's true, but I don't think it's true because they saw that. I think it's true because you're like, oh, we had a bad day passing.
Yeah, you didn't throw the ball, therefore he must not have been open.
A quarterback can be inaccurate and your receivers are fine. And people are like, oh, yeah, it's just that drives me. That whole thing drives me nuts.
Yeah, gotcha.
Awesome.
What do we talk about first?
Let's talk. Well, you brought up talking about the private capital deal. I think we should get that going right away.
Okay. I think we're on opposite sides on this one, if I remember correctly.
Ooh, I love that. Well, what are your thoughts on it? So let's get people up to speed. We talked about this a little bit in the last pod, but basically there's been proposed a private capital deal to the Big Ten to infuse $2.4 billion in the short term for basically a 10% cut of media rights for a fixed amount of time, is my understanding of it.
Yep. That's the high level. Yep.
Yeah. So, and Michigan and USC are notably against such a move.
Which, from a financial standpoint, doesn't make sense to me, because especially in Michigan State case, because Michigan would be in the group of three schools along with Penn State and Ohio State that would be getting the most upfront money, $190 million, plus there would be getting the bonus payment that comes due in like 8 years or something when the next media deal is realized. I think is supposed to be another $50 million. Plus, they would now start receiving the highest amount of unequal revenue share on an annual basis, such that their higher amount of that payout would actually be more. They would gain more by that than the 10% they would lose on the back end that would go to UC Capital. So essentially, the 13 schools that are in the tier 3, getting the lowest amount of payouts, are paying for the entire 10% that is going to UC investments. So like Michigan, Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State are getting far more money than they would get in the status quo.
Right.
And Oregon and USC, who are in tier 2, are getting a little bit more than they would get in this, or in Oregon's case, and currently getting a half share, would getting substantially more. So, but even USC would be getting at least as much, if not more. So financially, I don't understand the objection. I think in USC's case, they just don't want to be in tier 2. I think they think they deserve to be in tier 1 along with Michigan, Ohio State, and Penn State. And I think in Michigan's case, I don't really think this is about money. I think it's a power structure, vengeance, pissed off with the Big Ten deal. That's an opinion. I've seen other people speculate similarly, but money-wise, you're gaining money at no cost to you. So I don't understand the financial objection. Now, maybe they're opposed to extending the grant of rights and being tied to the Big Ten for an extra 10 years. And that, I don't agree with that, but I could see why someone might have that argument.
Yeah, I don't know. I think reports of the death of the Big Ten have been greatly exaggerated when it comes to a super league. I just don't see. The thing is, for Ohio State to be Ohio State, for Oregon to be Oregon, for Penn State to be Penn State in most years that aren't this year, somebody has to take a bunch of losses. And that's, been Purdue and Rutgers and Maryland and, UCLA, etc. And it's just a thing where if you break off and you go play in your super league, then all the teams that have made their brands on winning 10, 11, 12 games a year are going to go 6-6, and their fans are going to tune out.
Some of them are going to go 3-9.
Yes. So it is not in the best interest. And I have a good buddy, friend of the pod, Phil, who's an Ohio State fan. And he's like, well, I want to get rid of all out of conference games except for against power conference teams. Play 12 power conference games a year. And I'm just like, that is so not a reasonable thing to ask of every college football team. And that's a different subject.
Nothing's preventing Ohio State from scheduling that way if they want to. Here's the thing on the Super League, and this is the part that's so funny to me. You know who's not been talking about the Super League for the last 18 months, 2 years?
Who?
Anyone in the SEC or the Big Ten.
Right, because it's not going to happen.
But people, the media that keeps pushing the Super League and the Super League groups that keep pushing the Super League, what they don't want to talk about and admit is that the Big Ten and the SEC have already moved on from the Super League. They don't need it. They got control of the CFP. They got 60% of the CFP revenue. They got control of the D1 Board of Governors. They gain nothing from a Super League. In fact, all they'd be doing is bringing the ACC and the Big 12 teams up to par with where they're at. And you'd also have to eat all the political fallout. You imagine the political fallout if the Big Ten team, say the top half of the Big Ten and the top 2/3 of the SEC tried to leave everyone else behind. And for there's politicians getting involved right now.
And it's not just about sports is the thing.
It's not.
These are billion-dollar research institutions, all of them. And they have massive endowments, and they have lots of investments and things in common with each other through the conference affiliation that they don't want to just throw out the window.
The other thing is, if you're against private equity, who do you think is going to fund the formation of a super league? It's not going to be UC Investments. It's going to be a real private equity firm is going to fund the creation of the super league, and nobody's going to want that because it's going to be a much different deal than this one. Look, the Big Ten and the SEC don't want the Super League. They've made that very clear. They've moved on from it. The only people still talking about it are outside those two conferences. So the idea that you're afraid of tying yourself to the Big Ten is nonsensical to me. Where are you going to want to go?
And the Big Ten is the wealthiest league for a reason. So it's fun. It's got the most alumni. It has all those kinds of advantages. And I'm totally with you.
There was the article that the USC and Michigan would threaten to put their non-football sports in the ACC. Go for it.
Yeah.
Have fun with that. Yeah, enjoy that. That's going to work out well.
The ACC is a ship that's that's sailing on the right course for sure, as people are trying to get out. Friend of the pod, Max, is in the chat. We appreciate you, Max, saying, I think we just need to get rid of playing FCS teams. Group of 5 teams are fine as long as you play one Power 5 non-con. I agree. I'm totally fine with that. I mean, I'm the FCS games don't bother me that much, to be honest, as long as it's like one of them a year and it's a FCS team that has a pulse, if you can help it. But yeah, 2 group of 5 games and 1 Power 5 non-con, I think is an ideal schedule for most teams. My pushback on that would be if you're Purdue right now, if you're Michigan State right now, if you're towards the bottom of the league, if you're Maryland right now, it doesn't do you any good to play a power conference team out of conference. I say schedule 3 wins. And get better during that time, and then you're already gonna have to play the 9-game gauntlet that is the Big Ten. So I'm okay with. I think there needs to be flexibility. I don't think Ohio State and Oregon need to schedule the same way Minnesota and Iowa need to schedule, doesn't need to be the same way that Purdue and UCLA and Michigan State schedule. It doesn't all need to be the same.
Here's my idea, and I think it fixes 3 problems. In order to be eligible for the college football playoff, you have to play 10 games against power conference opponents. Get them any way you want, but you got to play 10. So this fixes the Notre Dame problem. Notre Dame has to make a real schedule. I don't care. Load up on bottom of the pack SEC teams if you want, or ACC, or I don't care. But you got to play 10. You can't get by playing 6 Power 5 power conference teams and 6 G6 teams. It's a joke. So that fixes that problem. The other thing is it allows teams who are on the rebound to say, okay, for the next year or two, we're not going to be in the playoff conversation. Let's schedule ourselves wins, build our program. But at some point, when you get further down the road and you start thinking about making a playoff, now you got to up your schedule. And I think that would also have the benefit of maybe we wouldn't be trying to schedule games 10 years out, and people would be looking more in the 3 to 5 year range at a maximum instead. So.
Yeah, I mean, you certainly wouldn't have had Indiana scheduled the way they scheduled this year if you had those rules in place. So, and to be fair, Michigan didn't schedule well the year they won it. Ohio State didn't schedule that well last year when they won it, et cetera. So,
I mean, right now there's no incentive to schedule those games.
No, there isn't. I mean, Doug, let me take you to a slightly parallel universe that I'm sure exists. Imagine if Minnesota hadn't played Cal and had just played another group of 5 team.
Mm-hmm.
How much different is the conversation around the Golden Gophers at 7-2 than it is at 6-3?
Yeah.
I'm just saying it's a whole different conversation. So
Michigan too, right? If Michigan didn't play Oklahoma,
yes,
and they're sitting there with 1 loss right now, they're ranked in the top 10, and
there's no incentive to do it right now. And
I mean, they're basically Ole Miss, because that's what Ole Miss does every year. They schedule themselves 4 home patsies, and then they just got to, okay, all we got to do is go 6-2 in league play, and we're in.
Yeah.
That's what they're going to do this year, or better.
Absolutely. And they have a team this year, I think, that a lot of people think is probably less talented than what they had last year, at least defensively.
Yeah. I mean, they're good. I mean, I'm not saying they don't deserve to be in the playoffs, because I think they do.
Oh, no. They're good. Lane Kiffin's great. Don't get me wrong.
It's a great scheduling philosophy that's benefiting them very well. Now, next year, they lose one of those. So I'm so happy the SEC is finally moving to 9. Like, at least when we're doing these resume comparisons, we're going to be comparing more apples to apples than we have been.
Oh, it's been so ridiculous. And the argument that our 8 are better than your 9, I'm like, it's just simple math. You have 9 more losses in the Big Ten. You're playing another conference game. That's 9 more losses. In the SEC, that's 8 more losses.
Yeah.
That's just math.
That's just math. And then look at, tell me your 8 are better than my 9. Go look at Texas A&M schedule and tell me their 8 are better than somebody's 9. Like, seriously. They play every team at the bottom of the SEC, and they play almost none of the teams at the top of the SEC. I don't think they play. Texas A&M this year does not play Alabama, does not play Georgia, does not play Vanderbilt, does not play Oklahoma. 4 of the top 5 teams outside of themselves, right? They play Texas. That's it. It's the only one. And Texas, you could argue, is maybe the 6th best team in that conference.
So okay. I think that's a good transition to start talking playoff rankings. But like before that, on the last thing on the private capital thing, I'll just say this. What do you say to someone like me who's worried and saying, is it worth taking that money up front for 10% of media rights that could be worth more? You know what I mean? Like, are you essentially giving away money?
I mean, I think you look at it 2 ways. And I'm sure people way smarter than us who have access to way more information on this than we do have run the numbers, right? So you look at it from a school like Minnesota, right? You look at it in the standpoint of, A, you're locking yourself into the conference and you're tethering yourselves to the big boys, Ohio State, Michigan, et cetera, for 10 more years, which is security, which in this environment, I think everyone's looking for. And then secondly, time cost of money, right? If I give you $110 million now, is that what you can do with that? You can do more with $110 million now than you can with the same amount of money spread out over 15 years or 20 years, right? So because you have inflation, right? Capital construction, construction costs are increasing at a rate that's way higher than triple the inflation rate, right? So if you want to use some of that money for construction, the faster you can do that, the cheaper that's going to be. If you wanted to use it to smooth over this revenue share era so you can stay competitive and fully pay out revenue share, then you can use it for that, right? So it all depends for each school what that calculation look like. But I mean, just based on inflation alone, it's probably, I mean, at worst, maybe, I mean, I guess the way you look at it as a negative is if revenue grows much higher than expected and you're losing that 10% of it, that could be more than the upfront capital you got, even accounting for inflation. But then the flip side argument of that is because this Big Ten enterprise is being created and tasked specifically with growing revenue, in the alternate world where you don't do it, your revenue might not grow as fast. So it's actually a good thing if your revenue grows faster, because that actually means Big Ten enterprises is doing their job. They're growing revenue faster than they would have otherwise. And whatever you're losing in the 10%, you're gaining up on the fact that your 90% is more than the 100% would have been in the alternate world where you didn't do the deal. Now, obviously, that's projection, but I think that's the argument you'd be making.
Yeah. I think I worry a little bit also about having, Big Ten has always been a revenue sharing conference, equal revenue sharing conference. And I think I understand. I'm not even saying I'm against the argument that schools bringing in more revenue should be able to get some more somewhere. I just wonder if that has a negative effect with competitiveness on the field.
Yeah. I mean, that's certainly a valid concern. I think the reality is it's probably going to happen whether you do this deal or not. Then if you don't, then the next time the grant of rights is up, it's probably happening then. And it could be worse, right? Because I think if you look at the structure, like 5.5% to Penn State, Michigan, Ohio State, 5% to Oregon and USC, and 4.9% to everyone else. Like, it's not that imbalanced if you compare it to like what the ACC did, which is like, it could be cases in the ACC where the top revenue teams are getting more than double what some others are, right? And it's a bump, but it's not this like massive gap. So it feels like, I understand the hesitation and I totally get it. But if you live in the world where you think unequal revenue share is inevitable, which I kind of think it is, it doesn't seem like it's so lopsided that the teams couldn't still be competitive, right? I mean,
yeah, no, I think you make a good point. And part of that is going to be, some of these teams, and it pains me to say, but, Minnesota's aligned in a lot of the right ways. Athletic director, coach, a lot of the infrastructure is really good, but the Board of Regents is a problem. They're in our way, and I think a lot of schools have, whatever it is at that school. It might be a president. It might be a Board of Regents. It might be donors. It might be trust, whatever. Every school has their thing they kind of need to get over and figure out. And that's something that this new era is, I think, going to teaching us really quickly, that you need to get better or you're going to be left behind.
Absolutely. And I think, you look in the case of Oregon, and they're one of the people talk about Oregon and Phil Knight and all that stuff. And there's truth to some of that and all of it in a way. But one thing that Oregon has that I think people don't talk about a lot is extreme alignment in regards to sports and football, from the university president to the regent or the board of trustees to the AD to the the alignment to the donors. It's so cohesive, right? There's no waste there. There's no infighting. There's none of that happening because there's such an alignment. And Oregon is a school, being new to the Big Ten and being on a half share of the media deal. I'll have to check when the numbers came out in June, but I'm pretty sure Oregon's either at the bottom or very close to the bottom in athletic department budget in the Big Ten right now, because we're on that half share of media revenue. But they won 8 Big Ten titles in year one. So they're obviously effective with their money. And so I think that's the point I'm bringing up about Oregon is really a point that can be made about all schools, is like, how effectively are you using your resources, right? A lot of that goes to alignment, right? And I'll talk about a little bit about the team north of us up in Washington. I think there's money there. What I have heard from people up there that are, Washington fans, insiders of that program, this isn't coming from me as a rival fan, it's coming from people there, that the upper campus and the athletics department in Washington have not always been aligned over the last decade. In fact, they've been often just, misaligned. And so I think that you've seen that, even though they've had some really good success at times, they've also had times where they're falling off, and they've had funding challenges at times. And I think it's because they actually have a higher budget than Oregon. So I think it's just more of that lack of alignment that you're talking about.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think you make really strong points there, and it's you have to be efficient with what you're doing, and then you need to increase what you're doing, and that's true for everybody from the bottom to the top. Max in the chat says it's the AD at Ohio State, and Max, you've been on that for a while, that he's the problem. So it'll be interesting to see if he, continues on as AD. What that looks like. But I know you're not a fan, so I will, now that's out there and everyone knows, and you called it. And if he falls off and looks terrible at some point, you will have called it first. So good. So that's good. I like that, Max. Should we pivot and start talking? So you've made me feel a little better about the private capital thing, because I've been pretty worried about it. And I just see anything, and I know it's not private equity, and that's what matters most of all. But yeah, I think anything that binds the Big Ten together closer going forward, may not be the worst thing in the world at this juncture. So that's absolutely fair. Let's talk playoff rankings. So I know I have a feeling I know what you're going to want to talk about, but I can let you jump into it, or any thoughts you have, higher level.
Overall, I don't have any. When the first ranking is always the one that's interesting to see, right? Because you don't really know where they're going to go with it. I wasn't surprised to see them have Oregon at 9, which is now at 8, but 9 the first week, now 8, lower than basically all the analytics models have Oregon in the 6 to 7 range. The AP poll obviously had them at 6 until they decided to copy the playoff committee after this last week. I don't really have that big of a problem with it. I would say I think Oregon I would put them ahead of Ole Miss right now, but
yeah, Ole Miss just played the Citadel.
Yeah.
And Oregon beat a top 25 team in Iowa.
Yeah.
So
and we lost 2 spots in the AP poll, Ole Miss jumped us after that result.
they jumped you. I know they jumped
us.
you after playing Citadel because somehow that's better than beating a top 25 team in
On the
Iowa.
road. Yeah. Not in the CFP rankings. They were already ahead of us in the CFP rankings. They jumped us.
Right.
Yeah. But I mean, here's the thing. Oregon plays good Minnesota team this week. Then they got USC coming in, and then they finish with Washington. Those are 3 teams that are all in the top 30-ish, of I think by most experts. And so that's 3. It's gonna be 3. If Oregon is able to win all 3, I'm not gonna bank that, right? We got to play those games. But if they were, Ole Miss has Kentucky and Mississippi State left. So the worst 2 teams in the SEC. If both teams win out, if Oregon doesn't pass Ole Miss at some point along the way before the final rankings, then there's something wrong with this committee because
you'll have played far more teams with winning records.
Yeah. And I think by that point, you can make an argument, even now, if you look at the resumes, I can make an argument Oregon's is slightly better or Ole Miss is slightly better. They're very equivalent. But after 3 more games, the games I just mentioned, there's no argument that Ole Miss should be ahead of Oregon, assuming they both end up 11-1. Texas Tech, I don't know. I'm not a Big 12 believer. I think Texas Tech is a good team. I do. I don't know.
Yeah, they're good. Their D-line's real.
I don't know because they haven't played anybody.
I mean, they looked good against Utah.
They did look good against Utah, but I don't think Utah's that good. That's my biggest beef with the rankings. I think the initial rankings came out, and Utah being at 13 that first week blew my mind because I don't think they don't have any good wins, and I don't know. I think Utah's overranked. BYU dropped as far as they could, given that they beat Utah, who's overranked. I don't think the Big 12 deserves a second team. Unless BYU rematches with Texas Tech and beats them, then you see both of those getting in. But if BYU loses to them again, especially if it's uncompetitive again, you can't let them in. You can't give them the spot after that.
No, I think you're right. And I think, you've seen that the SEC and the Big Ten are by far the 2 strongest leagues. So giving a second bid to either to the Big 12 or the ACC, they're going to have to really earn it if they get them.
The ACC is no chance.
Not really.
I guess the theory is if Miami was able to crawl up into the top 10,
right,
that could happen. They got to somehow pass Utah. They got to somehow pass Vanderbilt, team that beats Tennessee. They've got to pass, and then they've got to pass Notre Dame. Which at that point, if they're close in the rankings, then you start arguing maybe the head-to-head between those 2 starts mattering, more than.
But no one cares because it's the Notre Dame brand.
Yeah,
which is the frustrating thing about the rankings always is that I do think that the college football playoff rankings have been better overall than the AP poll. But at this point, the AP poll is kind of shameful. It is just it's a bad, poorly run beauty pageant.
The best thing about this season in the AP poll is the fact that for the first time ever, we are seeing all these various podcasters and other college football media calling them out. Calling AP poll voters out repeatedly week after week. And that needs to happen because the AP poll voters, I think the pool, and I think Ralph Russo, that he was the AP forever. Now he's with the Athletic. He kind of touched on this in a podcast earlier this year where he was talking about how he used to run the poll and he would recruit the media members to vote in the poll and how much harder and harder it got to be lately to get people to even willing to do it. Right. And it shows that the USC beat reporter who had that Twitter post, I don't really care. You don't know my process. I'm not going to explain it. I don't really have one. It was care. You're one of 65 people. This matters.
Yeah.
If
matters
you don't
a lot.
care, then give your vote up. If you don't care enough to and the problem too is the fact that they are in this old school mentality of they feel that they have to have beat reporters. The problem with beat
reporters have too much to do. They don't have time.
Watch the games.
Yes.
They're spending their whole day covering one game.
You'd be better off having podcasters do it.
Absolutely. Honestly. Give Josh Pate vote. Give all the Cover 3 guys votes. Give Joel Clark. Whoever you like. Give them all. Give them the votes because they're actually watching all of these games. Yeah. Or me and you. I'm watching them all.
I would take a vote. I'd be happy. Josh Pate's not my favorite, but I'm not I don't love solo podcasting in general. I do it sometimes, but listening to it, the thing with Josh Payton with me is that he's always got the straw man arguments. He's like, people are saying this thing that they're not really saying, and he comes along to bat it down and show how smart he is. And I feel like it's a lot of that. But I get it because you're talking to yourself. It's gonna kind of sound that way sometimes. Yeah. So I understand the position he's in too. Max in the chat, an Oregon Ohio State Rose Bowl seems inevitable. Now that 2 years in a row.
I don't think so.
No, I don't think so either. I think they're going to give Indiana the Rose Bowl if they can.
Well, I think whoever wins the Big Ten title game will get the Rose Bowl.
Gets the Rose Bowl, right?
And be the number one seed. I just don't think Oregon has any path to end up 8 or 9, right? Because I think if Oregon wins,
they're going to be higher than that.
If Oregon wins out, they'll be higher than 8, and if we lose one along the way, then we're either out or we're 10 or 11. So I don't think that's happening. The bigger story to me is the change of the format this year. I think was the right thing to do after what we saw last year, but it has really devalued in certain circumstances playing in your conference title game. Like Georgia has, they don't want to make their conference title game, and they shouldn't. And if I'm as an Oregon fan, I don't want to make the Big Ten title game this year,
which I hate because
I know
if winning your conference isn't something that matters, then I'm confused.
It's not that the winning the conference doesn't matter. It's that if you're also trying to play for the bigger prize, it's just like what's if Oregon has to go to Indianapolis and play Ohio State or play Indiana?
No, there's no reward.
What's the benefit?
No reward. Yeah,
like you're going to reveal your game plan. You're going to potentially get injured. Like if you have to play them again later, now there's that whole aspect of that game. And if it's Indiana, it would be a third time. Like there's no I loved last year, and I love that we in their first year we went to the Big Ten title game and we won it. And I would never want to give that up. But if I'm sitting here the next year and I'm looking at this Oregon team this year and we're banged up, we need to get healthy. I don't want to play another game.
Yeah. No, I mean, I agree with you. It's a problem. It's a problem for college football, and I don't know how you solve it.
Well, the Big Ten has a solution, but nobody likes it.
No, I don't like that solution either, though.
But
because then you need everybody to do it.
But
you can't just be the Big Ten doing it. If you're you're going to do the thing where you play for all the qualifiers, then every conference needs to be doing that, or else it's not fair.
Yeah, totally agree.
Yeah.
Anyway, but I think the rankings overall, I don't really have a beef. It'll be interesting to see what plays out. Obviously the SEC games are this week with Georgia, Oklahoma, and Texas, and Alabama. No, not Alabama.
Oklahoma, and Alabama.
Texas, Georgia. I had that backwards.
Yep.
I mean, those are either that's going to create. If the underdogs win, then all of a sudden we have the SEC chaos in full effect, right? Because now you're going to have all these 2-loss teams in play. If the favorites win, then you're going to have the Paul Feinbaum, Greg Sankey, everybody on ESPN, nonstop for 3 weeks talking about 9-3 SEC, teams need to be in over 11-1 teams from other conferences. It's going to be nauseating for 3 weeks straight.
Yeah, no, the whole idea, especially that they're still playing 8-game conference schedules and they're going to argue that they should get 9-3 teams in, is just so absurd.
Yeah.
It's so, that's.
I'm hoping that the home teams win, and no, because that's great. I don't know. Neither situation's good, right? Because we're either going to get, if the home team wins, we get that. If the road teams win, then we get here's the thing. Oklahoma and Texas will jump above, 1-loss teams. They'll jump above Oregon. They'll jump above Texas Tech. I mean, they'll all be in. So now we'll all get pushed back, and we'll have all these 2-loss teams in front of us. But yet, I guarantee you, Georgia and Alabama aren't going to fall behind us at the same time, right? They'll keep them ahead of us too. So then they'll be like, okay, what are we doing?
Yeah. So it's almost better if the higher ranked teams win.
Yeah, I'd rather have that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Clear the pain a little bit.
Yeah, although I do just as a rule kind of like seeing Alabama and Georgia lose.
Yes.
Although Kalen DeBoer is not, I miss the Nick Saban when he would be losing a game and he'd get that look on his face like he didn't have control anymore. I remember his eyes getting wild against Ohio State that one year when they went through him to win the title the first year of the playoff.
Yeah.
And he was just losing it on the sideline, and it was entertaining. I missed that a little bit. Anyway, any other playoff thoughts or other college football thoughts in general before we get to previewing these games?
No, I mean, it's unfortunate the way the Big Ten has played out that it's going to be hard to get 4 teams. I think the best path is probably Michigan winning out, which means beating Ohio State, which is unlikely. But then if Oregon and Michigan win out, then I think you got 4 teams. I think if let's say Michigan loses to Ohio State and then you need USC to run the table, but I don't know that Oregon gets in that scenario. I just feel like Oregon would be given short shrift and we'd be on the outside looking in, even at 10-2.
Yeah, I think there have been some missed opportunities for some teams this year. And honestly, I think for me, one of the top ones is Iowa. Iowa is a very good team to have 3 losses. They're extremely good. I mean, they have the best. Pro Football Focus has them as the best offensive line in the country by like 8 points or something.
They weren't last week. That line was on the other side.
But they're very, very good.
No. I know. I'm just that's a little bit of smack talking.
Yeah, no, you get to talk
the Oregon
trash.
offensive line was dominant last week.
Yes,
game.
The Oregon offensive line. The Oregon offensive line is unreal, really.
And in the run game, they're not as good in the pass pro, but in the run game, they've really got it. They really got it rolling right now. Iowa, you're right. I mean, if they would have won that Iowa State game.
Yes.
That's what's killing them. It's like it's not really like a close loss to Indiana at home, close loss to Oregon.
Oregon, that doesn't hurt them as long as they could go to beat if they could win in the Coliseum, and we'll get to that.
Yeah.
All right. Well, you're speaking of Oregon. I think we should probably talk about the Friday night game. So we have on Friday, November 14th, the 6-3 Minnesota Golden Gophers heading to Eugene to take on the 8th ranked 8-1 Oregon Ducks. This is an 8 p.m. game on Fox. The line is Oregon by 25.5. And you are the Oregon fan, Doug. So I will give you the floor to start with. How do you see this one breaking down?
So originally I think there was supposed to be maybe some worse weather forecasted. Not maybe as bad as like the last 2 games. That's the thing about Oregon. So they played in a real bad weather situation in Iowa last week.
Yeah, that was ugly. That looked miserable.
It was. And then the week before, and I was at this game at home, we played in similar conditions against Wisconsin.
Right.
So Oregon's, that slop is certainly, I don't want to say, it certainly affects the game, right?
Yeah.
So originally it was looking like this game might be similar, but I think it's now been pushed off. So I think it might be a little wet, but not like those 2 games. So I don't think that'll really be a factor. I mean, my first gut is this line seems way too big to me. I don't think
it started at 20.5.
Yeah.
And it kind of exploded since then with a lot of money coming in on Oregon. It's an interesting line to me. I understand it though, because at the bottom, Minnesota does a lot of things well. Minnesota has an evolving quarterback in Drake Lindsay, who I think is pretty good. When Darius Taylor is healthy, he's one of the best running backs running and receiving in the Big Ten. He just hasn't been healthy this year. And you've seen what happens to Minnesota at times when he's not able to play. The defense is pretty good. The defense is very good. I think Minnesota's leading the Big Ten in sacks and does pretty decently well in coverage most of the time. I know the games against Ohio State and Iowa stick out, but really the Iowa game was more about defense and special teams, than it was about our defense, as it was more about their defense and their special teams coming to be dominant. So the problem that Minnesota has at the end of the day is that the offensive line isn't very good. And Oregon is really Big Ten tough. And that's the thing. The difference between Oregon now and Oregon 15 years ago, when Cam Newton was able to beat them, for a national title, is that back then Oregon had all the speed players, but they didn't have the line of scrimmage beef, the big talented guys up front. Now Oregon has all those guys.
Yep.
And they have, the best pair of defensive ends in the country, probably in Uiagalelei and Tuioti. And have depth all over the place. So I kind of see why the line is what it is. And the problem, I think, for Oregon, though, is if you're gonna hit that number, you're gonna have to really run the ball like crazy, because it just seems like the wide receiver room is a mash unit. So do you have any updates on what the wide receiver health looks like, if you're going to get any guys back, whether it's wide receivers or Kenyon Sadiq at tight end or anybody?
Yeah, I mean, that's the question in this game. I mean, Oregon hasn't exactly been throwing the ball around all year anyway. I think Rutgers was probably, and maybe the Oklahoma State game, or some exceptions to that. But they've generally been, I mean, they play at a pretty slow pace, right? Not Ohio State slow, but more comparable to that. Like, the notion of Oregon as like this Chip Kelly era fast-paced team hasn't been true in a long time.
Right.
And certainly the last couple of years, I think Oregon has played, even slower. And in this, so that's part of the issue I have with the line, is I just think this will be a game that doesn't have a ton of possessions. On the wide receiver front, though, you're right. I mean, so, beginning of this, before the season, returning number one wide receiver Evan Stewart went out.
Right.
And then, during practice in the bye week or before the last game, number one wide receiver DeCorey Moore, true freshman, number one recruit in the country, or number one wide receiver recruit in the country from last year, got hurt. During the first quarter, I think Gary Bryant Jr., who's the third wide receiver, got hurt. So that basically Oregon was out their top three receivers.
Brutal.
Which really leaves Malik Benson and Jeremiah McClellan as the only two receivers with, really any kind of production on the year, as the only two guys left. And now they've got younger guys. Cooper Perry came in, veteran kind of locker room guy. Justice Lowe came in, and they're quality, they're playable guys, right? But they're not like top of the Big Ten level quality, right? So that's really the question. I mean, what I know, I don't know anything about Gary Bryant. His injury didn't look good the way they carried him off the field, so I would not expect him to play.
Right.
There's some scuttle that Evan Stewart may be making a return either in this game or in the USC game. Not really any confirmed information there. So he's close. If he plays in this game, he's probably on a snap count limit, right?
Yeah, I was going to say I was going to ask about the pitch count thing. That's the only problem with guys coming off of serious injuries like that.
Right. As far as DeCorey Moore, there's been really no information. So don't know there. And then, and then that leaves, I think I mentioned Gary. And then as far as Kenyon Sadiq goes, like, he did not suffer any new injuries. He had been playing somewhat hurt for most of the season. He got hurt in the Penn State game, and then re-injured or different injury in the Rutgers game. And he'd been playing the previous two games kind of banged up. And so I think they held him out. I think he wanted to go against Iowa, and the coaches held him out. So is he going to play tomorrow or not going to play tomorrow? I don't know. I will say, Jamari Johnson is a more than capable, replacement. I mean, he's not Kenyon Sadiq, but the drop off isn't as much as probably people would think. So I thought he was plenty productive in the Iowa game, in both the run and pass games. So it's really about the wide receiver core. So because of that, and because of the way Oregon's running the football, and I think the other thing you mentioned is the way that Minnesota is good off the edge. And I'd say the weakest part of Oregon's offense is probably tackles and pass pro. So I feel like this is a game where if you're Oregon, like, lean into your run game, which has been dominant the last few weeks. You're still going to pass. You're going to still be optimistic there, but I think you're going to lean on the run game. And that's why I see it. Like, let's say Oregon holds Minnesota to 10 points. Well, you still got to get to 36 to cover.
Right.
It might be too much. I mean, so I probably wouldn't take the cover here. I do think Oregon wins the game comfortably. I don't expect them to like light up the scoreboard though.
Yeah, it's an interesting point you make there about the problem that Minnesota has is that Oregon is running the ball so well. Can you get them to second and third and long? Because if you can't, then it can become kind of a long day. If you can, then Anthony Smith gets to do Anthony Smith things. And he's been an absolute terror against everybody this year. there hasn't really been any blocking him or much blocking him across, even in the teams we played that were, Ohio State, I'm sure had some luck blocking him, but in general, he's been pretty tough.
Is he going pro after this year?
Probably.
Okay. I'm just wondering if that's somebody maybe we can make an offer to switch sides next year.
No, you know what? You back off. No, I think he loves being a Gopher, but here's what I think it depends on. If he gets the word that he's going to be a first, second, even maybe third round draft choice, I think he goes.
Yeah.
If he's not going to be that, then I think there's a good chance he comes back. But given the year he's having, I feel like he's going to be, I don't know enough about the NFL draft to know what the depth looks like on the, at his position, or if, where he is on the slots in the draft board or any of that stuff. He looks like a guy who can have a long NFL career to me.
Well, and that's a premium position. If you can rush the passer, the NFL has a spot for you. Now, I admittedly have not watched him enough to know, and I'm not a draft guy either, so I couldn't comment on his NFL stock, even if I had watched him a ton. But by everything I'm hearing from you and others, it certainly seems like a real good prospect.
He's a likable dude. He's got a good attitude too. Plays pretty hard. Teammates love him. Stuff like that. What'd you say?
Nothing.
Okay. But yeah, no, I would love to pick an upset here. I'd like to point out the last time these two teams played in football was the 2003 Sun Bowl, a game which the Minnesota Golden Gophers won 31-30 on a walk-off field goal. Just saying.
I remember that game.
And here's the good news, Doug. The beat reporter Ryan Burns is saying that Darius Taylor is going to play.
Okay. It's good news for you.
That's good news for us, because without Darius Taylor, our offense is just not a lot less efficient. The question to me is he going to play like fully play, or is he going to play like against Ohio State where he was on a pitch count and then he was back to full speed next week?
Right.
So that'd be my question, because I think we need him to fully play. I don't think we really have that much of a chance, but if we're going to have a chance, I've got Oregon 35, Minnesota 10.
So around the spread. Yeah. 10's the same number I have. It's funny, as much as people talk about Oregon nationally, no one talks about the defense, which is crazy. The defense is so good. This defense is, it's a top 5 defense in the country, and nobody's talking about it. And they're the best pass right now, statistically, the best pass defense in the country. And it's the defensive backs are just insanely good across all 5 in the pass game. And so that I kind of have the same 10 number as you. And then the question is, how much does I kind of feel like it's more like 27-10 or 31-10 or something like that. So in the same range.
If Minnesota is going to have a chance, they need to score on either defense or special teams. Darius Taylor needs to play and be a guy that isn't just running the ball, but you're throwing it to him also. And getting him the ball that way, and just getting him in space and letting him do Darius Taylor things. And like that has to all happen if Minnesota's, and Drake Lindsey has to, he has to look better than he looked all right against Michigan State. But the last time we played on the road this year, Drake Lindsey has looked like a freshman, which he's a freshman, but on the road, he has really looked like a freshman. At a certain point, he has to grow up a little bit on that level. And I know Oregon's a tough time for that, because like you said, the secondary is so good. The defensive line is so good. There are playmakers at all 3 levels. I think Minnesota can do some things. I just don't think it's going to be enough to stay close for a long time. Like it could be close in the first half if Minnesota gets off to a good start. I would take the ball if they win the toss, kind of thing, and see if you can get a scripted drive and score right away like you did against Ohio State. And then if you can get a stop and see where that goes. But I don't have high hopes for this game, unfortunately. If Minnesota was better on the offensive line, I think it would be different. But I think that offensive line is kind of our Achilles heel when it comes to playing top tier teams this year.
I think the challenge as well is Lindsey's not a threat in the run game.
No, he's not.
And I think when you've seen Oregon over the last couple of seasons, and some of it's just the way Oregon structures its defense, right? They've been more susceptible to QB runs. I mean, you saw, in the Indiana game, Mendoza didn't run a lot, but he had like 2 or 3 like massive runs on that converted third downs into first down.
Backbreakers
and kept the chains going, and ultimately ended in touchdown drives. And so, like that kind of quarterback is the one that just like always seems to go right where this defense is the weakest. And if you have a statue, I think that, I don't know, Drake Lindsey's statue is maybe not fair enough. But if he's not a guy,
he can maneuver in the pocket a bit. He's not, he's not going to wow you with it. I will say, when they called the naked boot against Sparty in overtime, and he stiff-armed the defender and got to the end zone, I was like, oh, he's got a little more juice than I thought.
Yeah.
Not a lot, but he's got a little more juice than I thought.
Yeah, I think the thing about Oregon, and this is again structurally, this is why they recruit the kind of players they do, is like the lateral sideline to sideline speed, on the defense makes it hard. For a situation like that, right? I mean, the edge players, the linebackers.
That's when you need to have a really good offensive line.
Yeah,
that's when you play a team as fast as Oregon, you got to be able to block them a little bit.
Yeah,
and be physical and take advantage of them that way. And Minnesota just isn't that kind of team this year for whatever reason. So
it would be interesting because I think, structurally, Oregon played Iowa different than they would play most teams, and for good reason. Iowa ran a lot of 12 personnel and whatnot, and so Oregon had an extra box defender, right? Had an extra lineman most of the game,
right?
Normally Oregon will run a lighter box against most teams, and they're generally, and this actually happened in the Indiana game. If you go watch this, like Indiana did not get any big plays in that game. Like Oregon structurally just basically said, we're going to give you, 3 or 4 yards. And Indiana was happy to take it and execute long drives and turn them into touchdowns 3 times, right? They had three long touchdown drives.
Right.
But that's generally Oregon's philosophy. And most teams can't do that, or they get impatient, right? And go for big plays. And so I think in this game, if that's the way Oregon plays Minnesota, then it's more of a question of, is Minnesota going to be able to execute consistently 12, 13 play drives, even if they are able to get early down success, on first down, or you get a 4 or 5 yard run, are they going to be able to get another 4 or 5 yard run and then get a conversion and then do it again and again?
And that's what it's going to take, because that's the other thing. Minnesota, if they're going to have a chance, they need to possess the ball. They need to keep Oregon's offense off of the field as much as they possibly can. But yeah, I don't think it's going to happen. So that's unfortunate, but I don't think you're on the schedule next year. So that's good.
Oh, God, I haven't looked at next year's schedule in a while now. So I don't know. I know I don't know who we have.
Yeah. That's okay. We're in the middle of this year. We don't need to know.
It's an off-season conversation.
We'll have so long in the off-season to talk about games and imagine who these teams are going to be, and then they'll prove us wrong as soon as the season starts, and we'll be back on the same roller coaster ride anyway. So yeah, we don't think the Gophers are going to take the Ducks out, but I want to see Minnesota make some progress in this game. I want to see Drake Lindsey in particular make some progress in this game. I think I don't believe in moral victories. It's year 9 under PJ Fleck. You win the game or you don't. But I think that there's stuff Minnesota could take out of this game. And with Northwestern and Wisconsin still on the schedule, and no more true road games on the schedule, because that Northwestern game's at Wrigley. That's a neutral site game.
Yeah,
that's not a home game for Northwestern, and there'll be more Minnesota fans there than there will be Northwestern fans. I'm almost assured of that. So that and Wisconsin at home. So Minnesota has a chance to finish strong, even if they lose this game to Oregon. And when everybody inevitably collapses tomorrow night, when the Gophers, get pounded in prime time, I just want everyone to remember that Minnesota could still win 9 games. Not saying they're gonna for sure, but they could lose to Oregon. They go 8-4, still win. And PJ Fleck doesn't lose bowl games. They could still win 9 games. Just saying.
So you mentioned PJ. 9 years, which is a long time in this day and age. 10 years. Like, first of all, I feel like he and Minnesota are like a perfect fit. Like, I feel like he's just absolutely getting everything you can out of, I think, what Minnesota, can be. And maybe you don't like the way that sounds, but I feel like he's maximizing Minnesota's capabilities right now and very consistent.
I mean, he's raised the ceiling considerably. Yeah. I mean, Jerry Kill used to tell us that we couldn't compete against Power 5 schools for defensive linemen because there weren't enough of them. And I can't remember the last time we had any trouble doing that. You know what I mean? Under PJ Fleck, all the guys we recruit are Power 5 guys with Power 5 offers.
Well, it's also like that's a position where, sure, you have, if you're talking about the blue chip cream of the crop guys that are like freak athletes are going to end up at Bama or Ohio State or whatever, sure.
Yeah.
But there is a long list, especially in the Midwest, of guys that you recruit to your system, right? Yep. That fit in your system. And then it's just about development, right?
Yes.
You recruit them, you develop it in your system, and they can be absolutely a plus player in this conference. And we see it over and over and over again. And so absolutely. And that's what you guys do well. And teams like Iowa do really well, right? A lot of those old Big Ten West teams do that pretty well.
Yeah. I mean, the upper Midwest has a lot of big bodies, a lot of tall, broad-shouldered people.
Corn-fed beef up there.
So a lot of offensive and defensive linemen, linebackers, tight ends, stuff like that,
Yeah.
And I think you can go a long way with that. Iowa this year has pretty good speed. They have guys like Weetjen, so they're a little more dynamic than they often are, even without a really good passing game. But yeah, those are the kind of guys you can recruit for sure. All right, let's move on to the next game.
Wait, one more thing before we move on. I want to shout out Minnesota's uniform game.
Okay.
So
yeah.
And this is not just, this game. I don't even know what you guys are wearing this game. I think white something, but
white helmets, white jerseys, and maroon pants this game.
Okay. We are also wearing white helmets, which I'm not a fan. So I'll just say
I don't like the white helmets myself.
I don't like our uniform this week. I actually think this has been a pretty poor uniform year for Oregon. For some reason, we don't have a yellow jersey this year, which is
that's frustrating,
unfathomable to me.
Yeah.
But I will say Minnesota consistently delivers in the uniform game. And I think it's like they're one of the better ones, and they're not talked about a lot, but especially when you actually wear the gold, the chrome gold, not the yellow, the actual gold, like M on the helmet or like,
I hate the chrome. I don't like the chrome.
I don't mean the chrome helmet. I mean the chrome M, the chrome yellow.
Oh, the chrome. Okay. Yeah. No. Okay. I can get behind that.
Like when you're actually wearing what looks like gold, not what looks like yellow.
No, I disagree. No.
I know. I argue about this with
not my. That's no. I can't. I can't.
I don't like the yellow. The yellow's not gold.
I think maroon and yellow pops together. I think that's the way to go. I think we look washed out when we wear metallic gold. That's my opinion. I know not everybody agrees with me. Yeah. I've had a lot of arguments in the fan base about that.
I like it. I like the maroon with the metallic gold better, but I also say the maroon and the yellow is a really sharp look. And some of the combos that you guys have had over the last few years have really popped. It's a really nice color combo. It really fits really well together.
I think, either you have good colors or you don't. Minnesota has great colors. Oregon also has good colors. Either you have good colors or you don't, and if you don't have good colors, it's hard to put lipstick on a pig.
I'm trying to think of like
Illinois.
Yeah.
I always think of Illinois when I think of the worst.
Orange is bad.
And orange and blue. Florida too.
Boise and Florida, terrible.
Yeah. It's not a good. It's
not
a
who came up with that combo.
Or like Purdue.
I don't know.
Silver and black. I don't know, man.
Black and gold's pretty nice.
I don't know. We're gonna agree to disagree on that one. All right, but I appreciate the uniform love for the Gophers.
Love the mini uniforms. Yep.
All right. Next up, the rest of these games will be on Saturday, November 15th. We have the 3-6 UCLA Bruins going to Columbus to take on the number 1 team in the land, the Ohio State Buckeyes, 9-0 in the Big Ten. This is a 6:30 p.m. game on NBC. It's as I like to call it, the Here Comes Saturday Night game in honor of the theme song, and the line is Ohio State by 31.5. look, UCLA's been a really good story. Nico Iamaleava has played really well. They've gotten a boost since Deshaun Foster got fired. Jerry Neuheisel looks like an up-and-coming offensive mind in this game. Tim Skipper might have a future, as a head coach somewhere. So they're a feel-good story. But as we saw with UCLA against even Nebraska, they just don't have enough horses up front to help out Nico, and he doesn't have enough weapons to help him either. So against a team like Ohio State, I think the Buckeyes can pretty much name their score here. And I don't have a ton to say about this game in general, because I just think Ohio State's gonna dog walk them as much as they want.
Yeah, I mean, UCLA lost some games early they had no business losing. They made the coaching fire, and then they got their coaching termination bump, right? They got the massive win over Penn State, and then they followed it up with wins over Michigan State, Maryland. So that's a nice 3-game run. That's over. Like the coaching change bump is long gone, and now you're in the phase of the season where you're trying to get to the end. You have a reduced coaching staff. You probably aren't fully prepared, to be in the roles they're in, right? And they're in limbo, right? So, obviously they got dog walked by Indiana, and Nebraska game wasn't. The score was closer than the game, in my opinion. So I'm with you. Like, this is not going to be a contest. The only question to me is Ohio State has not been covering a lot of these big lines. They didn't do it last week. I started betting for them not to cover these lines because they've pretty consistently been playing low possession games, shutting it down early and getting out. And so 31.5. I mean, I'm not saying they won't cover this one because it could be, 35-3 game over, right? And they cover, but they're not going to put up 50 because they aren't doing that against anybody this year.
It really seems like they're load managing and thinking about the longer season and just not going nuclear on teams just because they can. And
they don't need to.
Yeah.
And their defense is so good. So Ohio State wins this one. It's a walkover. It's just whatever the final score is going to be somewhere in the 30s would be my guess. Just somewhere in single digits. 30-something to less than 10.
Yeah, no, I think that's, well, I think they get into the 40s this game. And I think it's because they're going to score on defense.
That would be the way it happens. Yeah.
Because Nico is not going to have time to operate, and that Ohio State defense, I mean, they're not just the best defense in college football. They're one of the best defenses I think I've ever seen in college football. So they're pretty amazing. I think I don't have enough superlatives for them. So yeah, I think Ohio State scores on defense. I think it's something like 42-0 or 42-3.
Yeah, fair enough. We're in that range for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Right on. All right. Moving right along. We have the 3-6 Wisconsin Badgers, fresh off of a victory against Washington, going to Bloomington to take on the number 2 ranked team in the land, the 10-0 Indiana Hoosiers. This is an 11 a.m. game on the Big Ten Network. The line is Indiana by 28.5. So, Doug, I had a lot of people saying, oh, Wisconsin's figuring it out now. Now you got to be worried about Wisconsin. Now Minnesota's got to worry about Wisconsin because they beat Washington. And here's what I'm going to say. Good for Wisconsin. They played very well defensively. They're a good defensive football team. That said, they came into that game averaging 12.5 points per game, and they scored 13. So if you score 16 points or more, you are going to beat Wisconsin. You're going to beat them. Full stop.
Their leading passer was their punter.
Was their punter with 24 yards.
Yeah. Their offense is inept.
It's one of the worst offenses I've ever seen at this level.
Absolutely. And everything in this game is pointing toward an Indiana massive blowout win, right? Yes. Indiana at home, they are going to, especially coming off of the close win last week
against Penn State. Yeah.
They are a team not like Ohio State. They will score every last point they can.
Oh yeah, Kurt Cignetti doesn't leave anything in the clip.
No. This is a Wisconsin's defense is good.
They are good, especially against the run. Especially against the run.
It's going to be 42-3. 42-7, something like that.
Yeah. No, I think that's right. I
Indiana
think
will cover this.
Yeah, Indiana will cover it. I've got 45-6.
Yeah.
Because Wisconsin has a hard time getting into the end zone more often than not. And I don't think one trip there against Washington means they've figured it out offensively by any means.
On the 7-yard drive, I think it was.
7-yard drive. There, I think Carter Smith was like 12 passes for 7 yards or something.
Yeah.
12 attempts for 7 yards. I mean, it was ridiculous. So good for Wisconsin for getting that win against Washington, but I'm not expecting, anything's going to happen. My real question in this game is Elijah Surratt finally back? Because they don't need him against Wisconsin, but they're going to need him. If Indiana's going to have a chance to either win the Big Ten and or make a playoff run, they're going to need Elijah Surratt.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
he's
without
the best.
him, Oregon wins that game for sure.
I think after Jeremiah Smith, I think Elijah Surratt, there's like a few guys, but there's like 3 or 4 guys right after Jeremiah Smith that I would say are the next best receivers in the Big Ten. And he is one of those guys. I mean, he is just the consistency and the high level of execution. And he just makes it look effortless too.
If I'm Indiana, here's what I'm looking at. I don't need him for this game. Then I have a bye.
Yep.
I bring him back for your last game against Purdue. Maybe
on a pitch count, maybe.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, or just like you get him. He plays the first half. You get a big lead. He works out the kinks, and then he doesn't play the rest of the game. The interesting thing, if we project ahead to the Big Ten title game, and let's say it's Indiana, Ohio State. Never mind. It's a dumb question. Of course, they're both going to want to win that game. So.
I mean, I think it'll be a thing where Indiana wants it so bad because, they haven't, realistically, the last time they got a 3-way share of a Big Ten title in 1967, and they got to go to the Rose Bowl because they had been the team that hadn't been there in the longest. And that's the last.
Sorry.
Oh, and I was saying, Michael Penix, he kind of was close-ish that one year, the COVID year, but really, the COVID year was a whole weird thing in itself. So it's been a long time since Indiana has a chance at this kind of glory, plus the games in Indianapolis. So the Indiana fans are all going to flock to it. And from Ohio State's side, it's going to be wait, this is our conference. You don't get to run in here, walk in here, and win the Big Ten. This is our thing.
Let me ask the Ohio State side of this question. I agree. Indiana is going to be fully motivated. No doubt. Let me ask the question from a different way from the Ohio State point of view. Knowing that if you go into that game undefeated, you're getting a bye no matter win or lose. Both teams will get a bye. And really, whether you're ranked 1, 2, 3, or 4, if you look at the bracket, isn't if you're a team like Ohio State and you think you can beat anyway, it's not really going to matter that much.
Yeah.
Of course you try to win the game. You're not resting anybody. You're not like you're playing your best game, but do you just play? You don't bring out anything new. You just do the stuff you've been doing all year, thinking like, we may have to play these guys again. Let's save the new stuff for that game.
I don't think so, man. I think you want to bury Indiana. You don't want them to think that they're the new kid on the block that gets to hang around.
I'm just thinking, what if you think you could beat them without doing anything special?
Yeah. And Ohio State maybe
Oregon did, to be honest. I think that's when we watch back the tape of that Oregon-Indiana game, 2 things were true. Oregon got vastly outcoached, in my opinion, on both sides of the ball. But what Oregon did nothing new in that game. Indiana did stuff in that game they hadn't done all year until the Oregon game. And so
I don't know, man.
That's what I'm talking about. But Ohio State may think they can do that and still win anyway, which that's the only question. I don't know.
Yeah, it'll be an interesting position because we'll have two teams in the Big Ten title game who are pretty much assured of buys no matter what.
Yeah.
So how does that impact it on either side, if at all? I mean, I think like I said, if like you said, if it impacts anybody, it'll be Ohio State.
I think coaches want to win, so I kind of discredit my own theory. It's an interesting thing to think about.
No, it is. No, you make a good point there for sure. But I think it's safe to say that Ohio State could theoretically stumble against Michigan. I just don't think that Indiana has any chance of losing to Wisconsin or Purdue.
No, none.
I mean, none at all. Those teams are a combined 1-and-a-lot in the Big Ten.
Yeah.
All right. Next up, we have the number 18, 7-2 Michigan Wolverines going to Wrigley Field to play the 5-4 Northwestern Wildcats. This is an 11 a.m. game on Fox, Fox's big noon kickoff game. The line is Michigan by 11.5. Doug, when Cam Porter went down early in this year, I thought it was over for Northwestern. He was their only proven playmaker, really. Griffin Wilde hadn't gotten off the ground at wide receiver yet, and I just didn't know what was going to happen. And then they found Caleb Komalafe. And that dude can ball. I mean, he's a freight trade. He's got good feet. He can spin out of stuff, and he's a north and south, one cut and go kind of guy. I like him a lot. I think he's a really nice running back. I think he's kind of underrated in Big Ten terms. Preston Stone is a little bit of a liability for them at quarterback, but they've kind of leaned into just being a running team and giving him maybe 15, passes a game, 20 at most, and really limiting his role, trying to run the ball, play defense, stay in games that way. The problem with that is that Michigan is essentially that kind of team, only more talented.
Yeah.
Michigan has, yes, Justice Haynes went down, but Jordan Marshall is fantastic at running back. And Michigan is really physical up front. They're a tough, on both sides of the ball. That defense is playing at a really high level right now. And, outside of that weird loss to USC, they've looked pretty good all year. So I think Northwestern is in this game for a while. Like, I think it's close in the first half. I think Northwestern might be able to do some things, but I could see it being 13-7 Michigan at half or something. But I think once Michigan takes control of this game, it's going to be over. And obviously Bryce Underwood he doesn't have big stats. He's a lot more dynamic than Preston Stone is in any number of ways. So if they can get any boost from him, that makes a difference. And then, if you're Michigan, you got to stop Komalafe and Griffin Wilde at wide receiver. And Wilde, I think, with the athletes Michigan has, I think they're going to be able to do that. So I think Northwestern has a little bit of success in the first quarter and a half. And then after halftime, Michigan pulls away. So I've got the Michigan Wolverines 30, the Northwestern Wildcats, the Michigan Wolverines 31, the Northwestern Wildcats 13.
Northwestern's an interesting team because they're 5-4. They still going to be tough to make a bowl game though, because they got Michigan, Minnesota, Illinois. Games. Yeah. It's there's not an obvious win there. I mean, they can,
and none of those are home games.
At Illinois, yeah, you're right. You're right. Well, Minnesota's at home, but Wrigley.
It's at Wrigley, so it's not really a home game.
Yeah, and this Michigan game is going to be more Michigan fans there for sure than there will be Northwestern fans. So, yeah, I mean, when Oregon played Northwestern to open Big Ten play early in the year, I was impressed by, especially given the coaching change and the turnover, everything. Wrong team. That's Purdue. I just they're just a tough, play hard, keep it close kind of team. They're certainly undermanned against most teams in this conference, but they play everybody. They give everyone their best game. Obviously, they knocked off UCLA early. They played Penn State. They beat that Penn State team. Obviously, that's a weird game, but they played close to Nebraska. I think it'll be a game, like you said, at least early. I think they were very, like you said, the styles in this game are it's like mirror images of each other. It's like the Batman or the Spider-Man meme, you're pointing at
this
each
game
other.
Might be over in 2.5 hours the way they're going to run the ball.
It could be. Yeah. But just at the end of the day, Michigan's more talented, and I think that shows out. I don't know that I have it as big of a gap as you. I'd say more like 27-14 27-17, 27-14, somewhere in that,
Yeah.
somewhere in that range. So right around the spread. I think the spread on this one is pretty good. So I'd probably put it somewhere in that range.
Yeah, my thought is that if Michigan does get a lead, Northwestern's going to eventually have to start throwing the ball, and that's just not going to go great.
Yeah, maybe that'll just take longer. Michigan doesn't really have their offense doesn't really put teams, especially without Justice Haynes, right? When they're
he's the home run hitter. Yeah,
he's the home run hitter. Without him, they're like grinding out drives, and they're not really lighting up the scoreboard. So I think if they put them away, I think that might take so long where the game doesn't end up in such a lopsided score.
Maybe, but I also think Northwestern has less team speed than other Big Ten teams on average. And I think Michigan being an above average speed team and Northwestern being a below average speed team, I just think that becomes a factor at some point when you have that big a disparity athleticism wise. But I think David Braun's a good coach. I think he's done a good job there. I think he's proved that he should get to stay there and continue to build, because he had the really nice first year. Last year wasn't great, but this year doing pretty well. So like, even if they end up 5-7, they've been a very competitive 5-7. And I think unless you're going to bring in, unless you have a really good hire in mind, this isn't the year you want to be lining up to get a new head coach.
I mean, I don't know why they would let him go. That seems insane to me. I was more thinking like maybe somebody comes after him for a bigger job.
Oh yeah, that could happen too.
I mean, it's not going to be like a top tier, but like as the dominoes fall, like
right. No, I hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
All right. Next up, we have a really good game. The number 21 ranked 6-3 Iowa Hawkeyes heading to Los Angeles, take on the number 17 ranked 7-2 USC Trojans. It's a 2:30 p.m. game on the Big Ten Network. The line is USC by 7.5. Doug, I've had to eat crow all year because I was a Jaden Mayava hater and non-believer last year, and he has largely proven me wrong. He's played at a high level. Makai Lemon is obviously an incredible receiver. He's got guys like Lake McCree at tight end, like Jacoby Lane at the other receiver spot, who can also get some things done. But yeah, Mayava playing at a really high level. The thing is, though, it might rain.
Oh, not might. It will rain.
Okay.
For the next 2 days. It's supposed to be raining all day Friday and Saturday.
I feel like
a lot of rain.
So that might bode well for Iowa.
It might.
Keep the score down a little bit, make it be a little more of a slug match, make that passing game less of a thing where it's about both teams running the ball and slugging it out. And I just think that USC is so close to making the playoff in some ways. I'm sure they can see it. I'm sure they can taste it. They're thinking that they're going to get there. And I just don't think they're gonna. I think Iowa is a better team than people gave them credit for, even coming out of that Oregon win or Oregon loss, excuse me. And I think going to Los Angeles in another rain game, Iowa has no trouble playing in weather games. They do not get. The only time I've ever seen Iowa look uncomfortable was when it was 15 degrees in Minneapolis one year. And that's the only time I've ever seen them look any kind of uncomfortable in a weather game. So I kind of like Iowa here. As good as USC is, if the passing game is dampened just a little bit, I think Iowa has a pretty good secondary, and that they can hold up against the USC passing attack a little bit. And here's my thing with Lincoln Riley. Against Notre Dame, they were down 10 points. Driving down the field, about to score a touchdown. And he calls a wide receiver reverse pass.
In the rain.
Wide receiver reverse pass. And I just...
In a downpour.
Thank you. In a downpour. And he was like, well, my quarterback's balling out. What I'm going to do is get it to my wide receiver. And this is what I'm saying. It's not enough for Lincoln Riley to score, he's got to look like a genius while he does it. And I think that impulse sinks him here. I think he tries to get too cute at the wrong time, turns the ball over, Iowa scores, and they win. So I've got the Iowa Hawkeyes 23, the USC Trojans 20. Oh, friend of the Patrick in the chat, Gophers plus 25 easy with a little sprinkle on the money line. In PJ we trust. I mean, Patrick, I do trust PJ. I do think the Gophers are going to come out and play hard. I'm not a gambling man myself because I think things like that are so hard to predict. And I don't know if Darius plays, if he's on a pitch count. I don't know. We don't know who's going to play wide receiver for Oregon. You know, I don't know if Drake Lindsay is going to bounce back and play better on the road or not in this game. So yeah, if you are a betting man, like, good for you. I avoid that stuff like the plague.
Yeah, we talked about that. I think it's too big of a line, so I kind of agree with him there. But you never know. But there's definitely the things in play that could make this a 40-10 game too. So
that's what I'm saying, and that's what worries me about that, especially if Drake throws a pick or two and then it gets real lopsided real quick. But anyway,
back to this game. So
back to Iowa USC. Super curious what you think about this.
I agree with you completely about Lincoln. You know, watching him in now year 4 at USC, the first 3 years. He had Caleb Williams for the first 2, and then he had kind of a committee quarterback last year. And all 3 of those years, he actually had a very efficient run game, but refused to use it.
Refused to run the ball.
He would just stop running the ball. Like his team's gashing the other team, and then all of a sudden in the third quarter, he runs the ball twice in the entire quarter. And falls behind, like repeatedly over and over again. And then last year, like, there was one common theme throughout last year against Washington. You could run the ball on them. Everyone ran the ball on them. They had their run defense in the interior was terrible. USC goes up there, throws the ball all around in the first half, gets in a big hole. Second half, they just run, and they almost pull out the win. And it's like, what kind of game plan did you have coming to that game?
Yes.
And you didn't even have a good quarterback last year. and it was like near the end of the season. So they had 10 games of film that showed you like Washington was totally gettable in the run game. And you just didn't even try it. He's
so stubborn.
Overrated coaches. Like, I don't.
Oh, yeah.
He's so overrated. Like,
yeah,
it's unbelievable because not only is it the game plan and play calling decisions and stuff like that, his time management, timeout management, game clock management, game situation management, and end of game situations is just, it's not crystal ball level bad, but it's not far off.
Right.
Like, it's not good. So this game's interesting to me because I can't wait to watch this one. I'm not betting it in any way. I have no idea how it goes. I'm just fascinated to watch it. I think the rain, could be a huge factor in Iowa because I would fear USC being able to throw the ball around and put too many points on the board for Iowa to match, but the weather could prevent that. I think the question I have about Iowa is, are they demoralized after last week's almost won, didn't win, lost to Oregon, or are they motivated by that? And then you got to come across the country. USC is a team that is a different team at home than they are on the road, right? So they're at home in this one. Can you get them to play in a way like they did on the road at Notre Dame or on the road at Michigan last year or Illinois this year, right? And so it's like, are we going to get good USC at home? What's Iowa's mindset and motivation in this game? I really could see this being USC winning by 20 or a slugfest that ends up like the Oregon-Iowa game last week, maybe a little bit higher scoring, but the same kind of end of game situation. And I have no idea which one of those two things to predict. I'd like to predict an Iowa win. I'd like an Iowa win because I would never root for USC to ever win a game against anyone except maybe Washington, maybe. Probably Washington. That might be the only team. I
mean, I'm definitely always cheering against Iowa, but it would be funnier if USC won. I mean, sorry, if Iowa won.
Yeah.
It's funnier. It's objectively funnier if Iowa wins and ruins Lincoln Riley's playoff bid right here with a few weeks left in the season. Like, that's a funnier outcome.
Yes, and USC as a program during Lincoln and previous to Lincoln has been a team that quits. Once they're out of the running, they quit. They did it last year. They did it 2 years ago. They did it previous to Lincoln multiple times. Once they get that first loss or the loss that kicks them out of contention, they just quit. And so this could be a quit situation if they were to lose. So I would love that. I'm going to predict USC wins but doesn't cover. I'm going to say like 27-24, 28-24, something like that. Something in the 20s.
I could see that. I don't know. I think they're going to win I was going to win the turnover battle, win the game, but I
hope you're right. I'll be rooting for that for sure.
I mean, I hope I'm wrong because I don't ever want to see Iowa win ever, but I do think they're a much better team than they've gotten credit for this year.
I agree.
In the chat from College Football Peek Around the Corner, Greg Flugar. Always good to see you, Greg. Thanks for hanging out, man.
He's a Minnesota guy, isn't he?
He is, yes.
Yeah.
He says 42-17 Oregon, Golden Gophers cover. Let's go. I could 42-17. If honestly, Greg, if we put up 17 points, I'll be like, oh, the offense played okay.
If we put up 42, I'll be like, oh, our offense is back on track. So
yeah, no,
I'd probably take 7 points off of both of those scores and feel pretty good about 35-10. Like you.
That's exactly. That's about where I'm at. But again, like you said, if Oregon can force Drake Lindsay into some big mistakes, then all bets are off score wise, and it could get real lopsided real quick. So I hope we avoid that, but we will see. All right, next up we have the 3-6 Penn State Nittany Lions on a 6-game losing streak, playing against another team on a 6-game losing streak, the 3-6 Michigan State Spartans.
This is a force against the
stoppable object.
Yeah, stoppable object. Thank you. Yeah.
This is the 2:30 p.m. game on CBS. Cue the horns. The line. Nice. I like that. That's the first time I've had anyone ever respond to me when I said cue the horns. That's great. I appreciate it.
Wasn't very good, but I tried.
Hey, it was we reward effort here. Absolutely all the time. This game's being played in East Lansing. The line is Penn State by 7.5. Michigan State made a quarterback change last week.
Michigan State also got punished.
Or a couple
by the NCAA.
I know. Yeah, they did.
So I put this on Twitter, the old joke, like the NCAA was so mad at Michigan for cheating that they, sanctioned Michigan State.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of absurd when you read the details of what, like, they got 2 years of wins vacated and they're getting all these other. I mean, this is like an old school NCAA punishment you would have seen 10 years ago.
I know.
And it's like the guy got a sandwich or something. I mean, it's like it's like old school, like, violations that aren't even things that are really illegal anymore.
I mean, if I'm Tony Petitti, I'm like, I'm going to the NCAA. I'm like, are you kidding me? You cannot be doing this to Big Ten teams. How is this a serious thing? It's 2025. What do you mean you're vacating wins? Get out of here.
Yeah, and especially after basically doing nothing to Michigan at all.
Nothing. Michigan got off scot-free. They were cheating for 3 years, and they got off with almost nothing.
Yeah, it's absurd. Yeah, so the game-wise, something's got to give, right? Like, I mean, two teams who haven't won a Big Ten game yet. Like I said, Aiden Childs got benched. Michigan State's kind of in disarray. I think there's a lot of people in that fan base that want Jonathan Smith canned and shipped out.
Which I think is crazy, because this is not the year you want to be hunting for a head coach, Sparty. It's not.
In a year where, in a normal year, you can make the argument. And this, unless you have somebody lined up to take that job, then.
But it's also only year 2.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not saying that in a normal year, I'm like, yeah, you could fire him after such a bad year too. But I think in this year, you kind of have to ride with him for next year and position yourself better. And then if he screws up again, then you are where you are. But it does say something that Aiden Childs was benched when Aiden Childs was supposed to be Jonathan Smith's golden ticket.
I mean, he's been bad. He's just been
He
for
hasn't
2
been
years.
good.
He's been bad, right? He's just been turnover machine. Can't read defenses. He's very inaccurate. He's just not a good quarterback.
Yeah, I thought their backup. I mean, he was, I was annoyed when he came out against us because I was like, oh, so we prepared for Aiden Childs all week, and then they spring the backup on us. But it ended up fine. We ended up winning the game. But he didn't make as many mistakes as Aiden Childs normally does.
What's the over-under in this game?
Let's see. The over-under in this game is 50.5.
Yeah, I'm probably taking the over here. I think Penn State wins. I think Penn State covers. Yeah. I think it's like 30-20 or 32 or 31-24 or something like that. I don't know. That wouldn't be a cover maybe, but you know what I mean? I'm somewhere in that range. Mid-30s, mid-20s.
I think it's something like 27-17 Penn State.
Okay.
I don't trust Sparty. Can't really run the ball at all. They're sort of in disarray. Yes, the backup has played a little better, but not much. That Joe Rossi defense. Joe Rossi, the grass isn't always greener. When you leave, he thought he was going to go to East Lansing and things were going to be better than they were in Dinkytown. How's that working out for you, buddy? Because Jonathan Smith might not get fired, but Joe Rossi is absolutely getting fired. Absolutely, he's the scapegoat on that team. It's been a disaster. They can't rush the passer. They're not physical. They don't tackle well in space. I mean, it's a total disaster. And Penn State can run the ball. And Ethan Grunkemeyer played a little better. He played a little better against Indiana than he has. So, I think Penn State wins by a couple scores.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I have a macro take on Michigan State. I think they're one of the teams that in the new Big Ten has one of the biggest identity crises as a program, right? Because I think like teams like Minnesota, Iowa, they know who they are. They know where they fit in. They know what they need to do. I'd even argue Rutgers knows the same. I think Maryland, to a degree, knows the same. And they're at the bottom. They need to know. They know how they have to try to compete. I think a team like Michigan State or a program like Michigan State feels like they can be and should be a team that's in the upper, maybe the second tier. And I just don't think they are. And I don't think they've recognized that either as a fan base or maybe even internally, that where you're at in the Big Ten pecking order has changed pretty significantly.
And I think they've never realized that because they fired D'Antonio after like 2 bad years.
I thought he quit. He got fired?
He got fired.
Oh, that was dumb. I mean, he's the only guy who
either that or he retired.
Yeah,
but either way, it was they pushed him out the door after like 2 bad years out of 4 years. He had like 2 years that were kind of down, and they were like, "You're out." And I'm just like, with what he had built, with the consistency and the level they performed at, it's like, be careful what you wish for. Like, don't get rid of coaches who can coach.
Yeah, and you're living it now. And then they had the one good year with Tucker and gave him that massive contract raise, and that was
which was a total debacle.
Yeah,
and he was only good with the transfer portal. Also, it's not like he was building a program.
Right.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. Sparty thinks they're a helmet school, and they're not. And they were better off when they were under D'Antonio, when they knew they were like a plucky overachiever, and they would get a bunch of high character 3-star guys. And then some guys with some athleticism who could flash, and a handful of 4-stars sprinkled in, and they would have one of the 10 most talented teams in college football year in and year out for a while.
And what's funny about it is they went and hired a coach that actually is a program builder, right? Like that's what Jonathan Smith.
I know.
Like this guy is going to take 3 stars, build them up in their program, identify them, and fit their system. But it also takes time. Like.
Yes.
So part of me is like, how do you want to can this guy after 2 years when you actually went and got a guy whose entire coaching career is all about building over time? That's his mantra. And that's honestly aligns with what you should be, like you mentioned, from a school, but like they're impatient now and they want to fire him because they think this is the Signetti problem, right? Everybody thinks, well, Indiana just did this. We should be able to do that. Well, good luck finding that magic potion.
Yeah, there's only one Kurt Signetti, unfortunately. We don't all get one.
Yeah, there's not a bunch of them out there growing on trees that are
No.
it's just some repeatable process.
A bunch of guys who happen to be Nick Saban's recruiting coordinator when he was building his dynasty, and he's better at evaluating talent than everyone else is. That's a special skill. And I'd also say, Doug, that the Jonathan Smith thing shows me something else too. I don't know if the coaching talent in the Big Ten has ever been better. Ever.
It's pretty good.
I mean, I think you go top to bottom, especially now that Ryan Walters is out. Like, I don't think there's a bad coach in the Big Ten. I don't think there's anyone I would say is that you could say objectively. Like, I guess there's a couple guys who have less experience, but I don't think there's anyone who I don't respect as a coach and what they can do.
I'm trying to think who I would put at
Mike Loxley, maybe.
Loxley might be at the bottom of the list.
Yeah. But like I think Greg Schiano is a great coach, and it's not like they get crazy results.
I mean, he's been repeatedly the best coach for them forever.
And I think you go on down I just think you start at the top with Ryan Day and Kurt Signetti and Dan Lanning, and you go right on down the list. I mean, James Franklin got fired even because apparently it wasn't good enough as good a coach as he was. And, Bielema and Ferentz and PJ Fleck, and there's just a lot of great coaches in the Big Ten. I
mean, I guess there was a couple bad ones, but they got fired. So we'll see what happens. I mean, Jonathan Smith might be at the bottom of the pack, but I also don't know that he's been given. I don't know how anyone can only get 2 years. Like,
I think you need more time than 2 years. I think you need 3 years to really institute what you're doing.
Now the trend isn't good. I'll give you that.
What'd you say?
The trend at Michigan State's not good. So I'll give them that.
It's not. I mean, it's not looking good. No. But I think if Sparty signs up for the head coaching sweepstakes this year, they're making a mistake.
Yeah, I would agree.
All right.
What do we got? 2 games left.
Yes, 2 games left. We will power through. We have the 4-5 Maryland Terrapins heading to Champaign to take on the 6-3 Illinois Illini. This is a 2:30 p.m. game on FS1. The line is Illinois by 15.5. I like Illinois a lot here. I think Maryland's cooked. Mike Loxley once again did the thing where he looked really good for September, won 4 games in a row, and has now lost 5 games in a row. And the thing about Loxley teams every year is they don't get better, they get worse as the year goes on. And he's known as an offensive guru, but there have been diminishing returns in that offense. I look at them. I thought last week against a Rutgers team with a terrible defense, that Maryland would go off. And they scored 20 points, and 7 of those came on a 70-yard rush on like the 3rd play of the game.
And their quarterback threw for 98 yards, Malik Washington.
Malik Washington threw for 98 yards only. Yeah. So it's bleak. And they're not playing as well with their receivers. Their defense can't do much. It's really looking not great in College Park. And I just think Illinois is in a position where they could still win 10 games again.
Yeah, they got Maryland, Wisconsin, Northwestern, so that's a very manageable finish to get to 9-3, and then you go to your.
Then you win the bowl game, and that would be back-to-back 10-win seasons at Illinois, which is not something that's happened I can't remember when.
Your 3 losses are Indiana, Ohio State, and on the road at Washington.
Yeah, those are the Washington, not great, but also pretty defensible. I don't know what Brett Bielema's done in Champaign is incredible.
Yeah, no, it's good. I'm with you. Maryland is. I mean, if they win this game, they could make a bowl, but I just don't know how they win this game. If this is at Maryland, maybe I'd give them a shot, but yeah, it ain't gonna happen. Illinois wins. I think they're gonna win. Let's say 35-20, something like that.
Yeah, I'm gonna say it's Illinois 38, Maryland 17. I think Maryland's good, always good for a few scores in a game, but I do think this is a big Illinois game. I think this is a big Luke Altmaier and Hank Beatty kind of game, and that those guys really get into a groove and get it going, and that Illinois puts on some style points before, on their way to, not making the playoff like they hoped, but still having a really good season.
I predicted Illinois to be 7-5 at the beginning of the year. So if they end up 9-3, I mean, that's 2 games ahead of my projection.
I had them 10-2.
I was not on board the Illinois playoff train. I think for the most part, I think my opinion has been validated. But even though my record projection was probably a little too low, my thought all along was it wasn't a playoff team, and I think that's been validated.
You know, Big Kurt from Eyes on Big was on our Illinois preview, and he said the game he was most worried about was Washington, at Washington. He said that on the pod. Yeah. He came on and said, that's the game no one's talking about that I'm scared about. And he was right. You know, that was the game that sunk their playoff hopes. So, but they're having a really good year regardless. And yeah, it's Bielema. I can't say enough about him. And it bothers me too, because when, you know, it still is to some extent, but when PJ first came, Illinois was truly in-state recruiting for us because PJ's from Illinois.
Yeah.
So he's got good, and, you know, he played his college ball there. He's got good connections there. So now that Bielema's there, it's getting a little harder to just steal all those guys. Getting a little harder to just do that. So that's been frustrating for me personally. All right.
Go back to that Washington game. That was Washington's best performance of the year. Like if you look up and down their schedule, and that was by far, I think, the most complete game Washington played against a competent opponent, right? Like throw out the preseason games against Kent State or whoever. It was you can't look at that. So he's like against a good conference opponent like Illinois is. That was Washington's, to me, by far their most complete game of the year. So sometimes you just get somebody's best shot, right? If they played Washington now, I might like Illinois to win that rematch because Washington's a bit banged up. They're not playing as well right now.
Yeah.
And Illinois, yeah. But, I think you're right. Sorry, last game. Speaking of Washington.
No, that's okay. That's okay. I've got Nebraska fans like to tell me that if we played them again, they'd beat us. And I just want to say that game wasn't close, Nebraska fans. It wasn't close. It wasn't like a OG. If we made one more play, we would have won. It wasn't that kind of game. Anyway, moving on to the last game. We have the 2-8 Purdue Boilermakers heading to Seattle to take on the 6-3, as we were just talking about, the Washington Huskies. This is a 6 p.m. game on FS1. The line is Washington by 15.5. It was really hard watching Denzel Boston get hurt last week and carted off. That really sucks. He's a great player. I don't think they're going to have any trouble winning this game without him because I think Purdue is pretty cooked as far as that goes. And Ryan Brown isn't a terrible quarterback, but Purdue is just so slow and they hold a lot to make up for it. And they get away with it and they play hard. They're scrappy, but their team speed is poor. And that's, on the road against Washington. I think Damon Williams has been better at home too than he's been on the road. And I think Washington wins this one comfortably. I think this one, they win it by 2 to 3 scores.
Yeah. I mean, I'll give Ryan Brown and Purdue credit. Like they're a much better coach team and a much better performing team than they were a year ago. Last year, they were just non-competitive. Like even though they've lost, 8 straight games and all 6 Big Ten games, Big Ten games, they've been playing hard every game. And a lot of these games are close. I mean, they lose by 5 to Michigan. They lose by 3 to Rutgers. They lose by 7 to Minnesota. They put up 27 on Illinois. They put up 30 against Notre Dame in a loss.
Barry Odom's a good coach.
Yeah. Sorry. I said Ryan Brown, wrong team. You're Barry Odom, like a huge.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the quarterback.
Yeah. My bad.
Yeah, that's okay.
I was thinking of David Braun at Northwestern, I think. But, I get all these Midwest schools. You guys are all the same to me. No, I'm kidding. But yeah, Odom's a great coach, and I mean, he obviously had to turn over like 2/3 of the roster too. So
he ran 70 guys.
I mean, he had to. I mean, they're not optimal, but he's got them performing is probably the best they can. But you're right about this one. Washington, like USC, is not the same team at home as they are on the road. It's night and day difference. I think the thing with Washington is their offense the entire year has been 3 guys: Damon Williams, David Boston, and Jonah Coleman.
David Boston played 20 years ago.
Did I say Denzel Boston?
Gosh,
yes. It's getting late. Denzel Boston. My bad. Yeah. and Boston played at the end of that game, but he was obviously not even anywhere near. He was very hobbled. So even if he plays, he's not going to be near 100%.
No.
And then they're relying on a bunch of true freshmen at receiver. They've got some guys who've made some plays this year, but like they're not Denzel Boston level. And then Jonah Coleman was also limited, so I don't know what his status is. And then DeMond is just a guy who's playing like a quarterback who's lacking confidence right now, and
he really is.
Big playmaker out there, right? And he tries to do so much. In that game against Wisconsin, Washington ran 56 plays from scrimmage. DeMond threw 31 passes, and I don't know the number now, but he basically accounted for all but 17 of their touches, right? Either through he ran 19 times, he threw the ball 31, and then
too much
the
for
rest
one guy.
of their team only had 12 touches.
Yeah, it's too much for one guy.
It's too much. Or 17 touches. Sorry, it was 51 and 17. He had 51, and the rest of the team had 17. So it's trying to do too much, and he's very talented. But in this game, I don't think it'll matter for the reasons we said. But I don't know that they cover. I just don't know. Like, I think with the way Odom.
Oh, I could see Purdue's been scrappy. I could see them making this like. Honestly, I'm not picking them to cover. I think it's like 27-13, 27-14, something like that.
Yeah, I think it could be kind of that kind of game. 16.5. So yeah, maybe like 30-14, 30-17, something like that. Like it's a comfortable win, but not a blowout win.
Right.
Yeah, I'm with you there.
That's
and then obviously Washington will go on the road to UCLA after that, and then finish up hosting Oregon.
It's a tough end of the schedule for Washington.
Well, they were riding high, thinking they were going to be playing Oregon for a chance at the playoffs, and then they went to Wisconsin, and that dream fell by the wayside.
Yeah, that was a true collapse.
I don't think anyone predicted that result. I had watched it when it that easy.
Yeah, I'm kind of glad that Wisconsin, if they were gonna, pop it and win a game, I'm glad they got that out of the way now. Before we deal with them later in the year, and now PJ Fleck can go and say, "Hey, look, they're good. They beat Washington," and sell the team on that. Doug, sir, it has been great having you on the show. Before we get out of here, tell everybody where they can find your work.
Yeah, I mean, so obviously I co-host the QB11 Show. You can find us on Apple or Spotify or anywhere else, or you can look us up on Twitter or X at QB11 Show. Or you
on this show we call it Twitter.
Thank you, I do too, but I never know how people think about that. Or you can find me on Twitter at Douglas TS. You can get all of my college football hot takes. It's all I tweet about is college football only. If you follow me, you will not see anything on my timeline that isn't related to college football. Yeah, rare exception. I might retweet like a something about movies once in a while, but not very often.
That's fair.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's good. It's good to have some diverse tastes. You're a Renaissance man, and we appreciate you coming on. And yes, check out Doug. His show is great. And also he's a great Twitter follow. So follow him there. And sir, good luck tomorrow. I hope it's a good, clean game and nobody gets hurt.
There you go. We can both agree on that one.
There we go. All right. Well, thanks so much for coming on. And everybody, we will see you in the review pod in a few days. Sorry that this one got out so late this week. I moved into a house and my life's been crazy. So that's how it's been. Appreciate you all hanging with us anyway, and have an awesome weekend of football. And we'll see you in the next one.